This conference will now be recorded.
So today's topic we are going with the GRC introduction. So right then. So just a second. So new PPT chapter. So the topic which we are going to do the GRC introduction. The GRC components introduction one by one we will be doing in the today's session. So total how many components we are having in GRC? Or what are the topics we are having in GRC? GRC లో మొత్తం ఎన్ని టాపిక్స్ ఉన్నాయి యాక్సిస్ కంట్రోల్ లో first class in day one, not in the day one session, in the previous session also we have done, right? ARM, okay. Remaining three. First one is the ARA, Access Risk Analysis. Second one is the BRM, Business Role Management. Okay. Third one is the third one ARM, Access Request Management. Last one EAM, Emergency Access Management. Just remembering you. So, access control is all about these four topics only. And there is one concept that is called as the MSMP workflow, which is going to control the various activities. So, all these activities, automations are going to be controlled by the MSMP workflow here. Okay. So, that's the center of the topic we will be having. So in this one, as we discussed, firstly, what is our today's session? ARA introduction we are going to do. First component. So one by one component, we will be doing the introduction as per our schedule, which we have discussed previously. So first topic we are going to do is the ARA here, right? So ARA full form, what is the full form of ARA? Just now. Axis risk analysis. So what is the purpose of ARA? Purpose of ARA? Yes, to perform risk analysis for access only for users, roles, and profiles we created. So whatever data we have created till now, for them we should be providing the risk analysis here in the ARA concept. So let us see the some of the names here. So ARA. This name Access Risk Analysis, whatever version you are working, it will be available in this name only. So when you are going for older data here, some older version, the naming conventions are different here. Firstly, if you are going for the ARA, the first old name will be RAR. Okay, so RAR is the old naming convention we are having here. The naming is risk analysis redemption is the older name which we are having, like when you say when we are using GRC 5.3 at that time. So even before you are going later, before GRC access control 5.3, before you are going, you are having the naming this one same concept as CC, that is called as the complex collaborations. Okay, so these all are old naming conventions. So whenever you go, you see some resumes or concepts, they will be writing as RAR mostly. CC no one is writing right now. So RAR it will be available. Now what is the meaning of RAR? It is nothing but the old name of the ARA. That's it. The same concept which you are going to execute right now, the older name is RAR and CC. Okay, just remember it. So why you need to remember these things is, for suppose you are in an implementation project, sometimes you need to activate some default data or some activations you need to perform. So what is happening here is the naming conventions for something, so for some objects may be available in the older naming conventions only. So for this reason, I have given you this information. Right now, we have nothing to do with RARRCC. Just remember. So by RAR and CC, I will just mention you in this way, CC. Now, let us go for the details of the axis risk analysis. The first topic of axis control. So, what are we going to perform in the risk analysis? So, what are the features we are having? What is the purpose of risk analysis? Everything we are going to see right now in detail. So by the end of the today's session, you will be getting an overview about ARA. If someone asks you what is axis risk analysis, or what are the features of risk analysis, or what is the purpose of risk analysis, all these questions can be answered by this topic. Let us go and see right now. So firstly, the main purpose of the axis risk analysis is to perform risk analysis for users, roles, or profiles. Firstly, why we are going to perform risk analysis for anyone in the project? What is the reason? So risk analysis అసలు మనకు చేయాల్సింది ఎందుకు చేస్తాం? What is the purpose? సో జనరల్లీ ఇట్స్ ఏ జనరల్ టర్మినాలజీ రైట్, రిస్క్ అనాలిసిస్ అనేది ఏం న్యూ టెక్నికల్ టర్మ్ ఏం కాదు. సో అసలు మీరు జనరల్ గా రిస్క్ అనాలిసిస్ ఎందుకు చేయాలి ఏ బిజినెస్ కైనా సరే? To be secured, to make sure that there are nothing like fraud is happening, the business is running in the right track. Okay, all the security features are properly intacted or not, you have to check everything. So this is the general purpose of the risk analysis. So as a security consultant, what are we doing? User administration, that is creating user IDs and providing them the right access we are doing. So for our concept also, we require the concept of risk analysis. So we can make sure that did we create the correct user IDs? Did we provide correct access for the users? So previously, that is so in every SAP system, there will be something like a critical authorizations or critical transaction codes or important transaction codes or risky transaction codes you will be having. So previously you have learned the ECC security. There, did you find any concept of performing risk analysis? No. So recall the concepts carefully. There is one concept which we have done. SN? No, not SNC. Yeah. So we have brought the information about the users having access to the risky transaction codes or roles having access to the risky transaction codes. Where did we get that report? So, okay, think about it. So, let us take an example here. So, there is an FI consultant who is going to join in our project. So, as usually in SU01, we created him a user ID, and in PFCG, we create him some roles or customize the existing roles, something we are doing in this way. So, we provide access to that user through the roles concept for him. Okay, now my question is this user having right access or he is having access to any risky transaction codes? Okay, can I get this data? No, it is not technically possible for us as of now, but we are having a solution which we have done. Firstly, how are we providing access to this user? Through the transaction codes we are having. So in SAP total, how many transaction codes we will be having? One? Okay, correct number I am also rough figure. Okay, we are having 1,50,000 plus of transaction codes in SAP. Okay, these many transaction codes we are having in SAP. So In SUIM, we have concept called as the critical authorization concept. What is that one? We have brought the list of users. So we have selected some of the risky transaction codes or critical transaction codes or important transaction codes, and we are bringing all the list of users who are having access to this critical authorizations. We have brought the list of report, right? So first, suppose I'll be taking an example in this way in my project. So each module people are saying like in our project there are 15 important or 20 important transaction codes we are having. So 20 transaction codes into, like, let us assume like 150 modules we are having. So total how many important transaction codes you are having right now? Okay, 300, who said? You? 3000, okay. Right, total 3000 important transaction codes you are having. So as per our availability, what we have to create? A critical authorization object we have to create. Each transaction code, one critical object we have to create. So technically, is it possible for us to create 3000 critical objects and bring list of users for each critical object? Is it possible practically? Not possible. If in your project there are like 5 important transaction codes, 10 important transaction codes, means you can just execute the report and 10 reports you can send for the audit team. Like these are the 10 important transaction codes we are having. These are the list of users who are having access to these 10 transaction codes. So it is easy for you and both audit team also. But now it's the scenario was completely different. We are having 3000 transaction codes, important transaction codes. So as per SUIM, it is not technically possible for us. So if you execute this thing, it will take years of time just to generate 1 year report. Okay, so practically it is not possible. So to overcome this issue, this is the problem in the ECC system or the regular functional system we are having. To overcome this issue in GRC access control, we are having a solution. We are going to prepare a centralized chart where you can maintain all critical transaction codes for your project, all critical authorization objects you are having in your project, all critical SODs you are having in your project. SOD stands for segregation of duties, where there are some group of transaction codes and the authorizations we are going to have based on the responsibilities he is having. Now, what we can do in the access control is, by in one single place we can prepare a chart. So in your project there are 3000 important transaction codes or 3000 risky transaction codes. We can prepare it in one single place. So where can we prepare this one? By using something called as a rule set. Okay, so in the coming classes we are going to prepare something called as a rule set here. Rule set is nothing but it's a chart which contains all critical authorizations, transaction codes or their combinations. That's it. So here SOD also they will not call, this is called as the combinations. Now firstly, we will prepare a rule set chart. So, how exactly is this rule set chart prepared? What is the information we are having here? So, inside the rule set, we are going to have something called as the risks. Okay. So, based on the risks are three different categories of risk we are going to have here. Based on the risk we are having, we are going to create one thing. So what are the three different types of risk we are going to have? First one we are going to have is the risky actions. Okay. Second one is the sorry. So First one is the action. So what is meant by an action in SAP? Action is nothing but transaction codes. Okay. So from today onwards, we are not going to use a terminology called action, sorry, transaction code. So action we are going to use. Action is nothing but transaction codes. Nextly, we are going to have risky permissions here. What is meant by permissions? Nothing but the authorization objects you are calling are called as the permissions, it is called. Third one is called as the SODs, segregation of duties. Nothing but combination of a transaction code and the object we are having, or combination of multiple transaction codes and their related objects you can call. So this rule set is going to have something called as the risk IDs here. Risk IDs are categorized into three different things in this way: actions, permissions, and the SODs. These risk IDs are again going to be having something called as the so right. These risk IDs are going to have something called as the function IDs here. Okay, something called as a function IDs. These risk IDs will be created. Now, how are function IDs created? Function IDs created in two different things. One is the actions, second one is the permissions. That's it. Okay, each function ID will be containing actions or it is going to have permissions. Okay, actions are nothing but the transaction codes, permissions are nothing but the authorization objects you are going to have. So this is how we are going to prepare the rule set here. Rule set contain risk IDs contain function IDs are prepared by actions and the permissions we are having. So rule set is nothing but it's a centralized chart where we can maintain all the risky transaction codes, risky authorization objects, or combination of multiple T codes and the objects in one single place we are having. That's the that's the concept of the rule set we are having. It's a centralized chart where we can maintain all the required data in one single place. That's it. Okay. Now, this is for the transaction code. So, your GRC access control execution is not going to end here. Okay. So, there are, even though if you are going to learn some advanced courses in future, then also you should be again executing ARA based on the data you are having. At that time, no one is going to give you what is meant by rule set, how to create risk IDs, how to create function IDs, nothing. So, but I will be giving you information in which advanced courses, in which scenario you have to again come back to ARA. So, advice is learn the ARA perfectly here itself. It is not going to end here itself. Even if you are going for further future courses, there also you will be getting. Okay, now coming to the next one. So if at all you are going to learn in future something called as the S4 HANA plus Fury security. So while executing the Fury security, again you have to come to GRC system and perform risk analysis for the Fury users. But what is happening here for the Fury users? They won't have any transaction codes. So as of now, we are having only transaction codes for the NetWeaver users or the functional users. So FI consultant required access to bank accounts, you are providing transaction codes. Consultant required access for some material records, you are providing through the transaction codes. But whereas in future you are executing Fury security, where access will be provided through the applications. Okay, there won't be anything like a transaction code concept for them. If a Fury user required access for bank accounts, there is an application related to that. If a Fury user required access for an records, there will be a separate application for them. So for each activity, one individual application we are going to have. So they are also the same concept. Rule set, risk IDs, function IDs. But the function IDs, instead of actions, you are going to have something called as the applications. So the T codes will be replaced by the applications, and the permissions will be replaced by something called as the services. That's it. Okay, the concept will be same. Okay, only in the place of a T code. So nothing concept here. So పెద్ద రాకెట్ సైన్స్ ఏమీ లేదు ఇక్కడ. సో ఇప్పుడు యూజర్స్ కి టీ కోడ్ ద్వారా యాక్సెస్ కావాలి కాబట్టి యు ఆర్ ఇన్సర్టింగ్ టీ కోడ్స్ హియర్, risky టీ కోడ్స్ అండ్ risky objects. So in future they are going to access through the applications. So while preparing rule set, you are going to provide risky applications and the risky services. That's it. Based on the access they are having. That's it. So is it going to end here? Not at all. Just hold for a second. So there is another thing called as the HANA security, HANA database security, where we are going to learn how to provide user administration for the database users. So at this time also again you will come across the ARA concept once again. So here what will happen is, so how are we going to provide access for the HANA database? There won't be any transaction codes or else there won't be anything applications here. They will be having something called as the privileges. Okay. So through the privileges only you can provide access to the database users here. Okay, so instead of actions and the permissions you will be having privileges only here. So multiple privileges, single privileges you are going to have here. Based on that you are going to create a rule set once again. Okay, right. So these are the advanced topics. So it is not relevant to our training right now, but why I am going to give this information for you is you are going to be more caution about these concepts. So these are very important. So previously if you are discussing like user creation, roles, all those things, you may or you may not execute based on the system you are having. So if your project is having GRC system, those fundamental executions you are not going to perform in the real time. Okay, no one is going to use PFCG if they are having the GRC system with them. But these GRC concepts are not like that. So you must execute. So you must be not thinking in this way, if my project is having lower systems. No, you must be thinking about the future only. Every company will be upgrading, no one is going to degrade, right? So they will be upgrading only. So in future versions also this GRC access control ARA is an important concept for every system. So for this reason, learn these concepts very much clearly here itself. At that time, after you gain experience, you may be learning selfly or you may attending other training session. Even at that time, I will be also taking some training sessions for HANA security, Fury security. At that time, I will be not explaining anyone what is meant by rule set, how to create a rule set. So in this way, why? Because everyone is going to assume that you have learned everything perfectly in the basics. Okay, right. This is the first feature. What is the first feature of ARA? Centralized chart preparation of all risky transaction codes, objects, and the combinations. This is the first one. Second feature of ARA, that is, so problem in the security is the solution in the GRC. Problem in the ECC system will be the solution in the GRC. So what is the problem number one? We don't have a proper options or a tool to prepare all the risky transaction codes report previously. So now problem number two. What is the second problem you are having here? We don't have anything like how to identify the risk. So if I create a new user ID in SU01, so by executing any transaction code, can you bring me a data like is this user having access to any of the risky transaction code in the entire system? No, you cannot bring it. So in the critical authorization concept, you can only give one T code and generate the report. Okay, like that. So you cannot have any tool in the ECC system to identify the risk for the user's roles or profile. Anything, you don't have the option. and you cannot remove the risk. So can you remove the risk even if you find anything like a risky transaction code in ECC system? No, you cannot perform it. So the solution is in GRC. So what is the solution here is we can perform risk analysis particularly for a user, one particular user or multiple users also you can perform, or you can perform risk analysis for a roles and profile. So this risk analysis can be can be done for even a standard roles or the generated roles. It does not matter. So standard profile code as per our rule set, we can again perform the risk analysis here. Okay, right there. First thing, so after you perform risk analysis, what you will be having? Obviously, you will be identifying what are the risky things we are having. And next one is we can remove the risk for a user or role or a profile. So to remove the risk also in GRC access control, we are having two options. One is the risk redemption, which we won't be using barely. Second one is the risk mitigation. Very, very, very important concept. Okay, these are the two ways we can be using for removing the risk for a user or role or a profile. So see, first we perform risk analysis. We identify what are the risky T codes or the objects. Next, we are going to remove that particular risk. Is it ended here? No. We are having something called as the risk simulation. So, anyone have habit of playing games or moving Hollywood movies? Hmm? Okay. Simulation. What is the meaning? Hmm? So, like even in the games, like a rocket simulator, the astronauts before going to the spacecraft, they will be having some simulator training. Or you are when you are playing games, you are having like gun simulators like this. So simulator is nothing but it is going to create an environment. Okay. So like right now you are having something like 3D technology, 6D, 5D, something like this. So what is this simulator concept is you are not so a flight simulator is nothing but you are not riding a flight actually, but it will be creating an environment that you are riding a flight. In the same way, we are going to have risk simulation. That concept is we are not going to perform any risk analysis or removing the risk for the user. It is going to create an artificial environment for us. What if case situation? That's it. Okay, in detail I will be showing at the time of execution. And last problem you are having here is problem number 3. That is, so problem number 3 here will be the audit reports. So in security, we do not have any option like preparing a detailed audit report of list of users who are having access to risky transaction codes, risk of roles which is having access to risky objects, risk of profiles which is having access to both risky T codes and objects. We don't have any separate option to generate. So in your project there are 100 risky T codes. Can you get list of transaction codes or sorry list of users who are having access to those 100 risky T codes? Do you have any option previously? No, you don't have here. So the solution is available for you here. So what is the solution we are having here is generate various audit reports. So in SAP Access Control ARA, we can generate audit reports for the risky users. For the risky users or roles or profiles, everything. We can generate the audit reports. So if someone asks you what are the features of ARA, so totally 3 features we are having. Firstly, centralized chart preparation of risky T codes, objects, and the SODs. Second one is performing risk analysis, identifying the risk, removing the risk, simulating the risk. Third one is the generating the risk reports. That's it. So now these are the three features of ARA. Now you should be getting one clarity. So what exactly are we going to execute in ARA? Very much simple. Firstly, we are going to prepare rule set. Next step is we are going to perform risk analysis. After we find out risk, we will be removing the risk here. Next, we are going to generate a report. That's it. This is what we are going to execute in ARA. In simply 4 steps, I can explain you in this way. So these are the features of ARA. Now coming to these questions. So this is a very basic questions which anyone will ask you in future. If you are going for an interview, no one is going to ask you very much complicated questions anyway. So, like example you have seen in the morning, no one is going to give you access to the system, perform critical authorization. No one is going to ask those things. Just a small Q and A's. That's it. So here also the questions can be asked for the today's concept. What is the purpose of access risk analysis, or why do you recommend to implement ARA in our project, or what is the difference between risk analysis in the ECC system and the GRC system, or a scenario based they may be asking like from past 10 years we are having only NetWeaver system in our project. Now we want to implement GRC access control system for the purpose of risk analysis. Will you suggest it or not in this way? So scenario they are going to give, instead of directly asking what are the features of ARA, they will be just giving a long passage and simply again the answer will be same based on the question. Slightly you have to modify your answers and give the interviewer in this way. So for all these things the answer is simple. Preparing the centralized chart, performing the risk analysis, removing the risk and generating the report in this way. So this is all about the ARA here. So as I have said previously, even this concept or this implementation is not going to end here itself. Now, what is here? So the main purpose of execution is for this one is for our automation purpose. Okay. So in the coming classes, we will be executing MSMP workflows here. So in the MSMP workflow, how is this entire concept helpful for us? What we will be doing, we are going to create a user ID for the project. So when the user ID is created automatically by these workflow configurations which we are doing, we can perform risk analysis immediately itself. And if risk is available, the risk will be removed completely and sent to the user ID of sent to the user. For suppose I am creating a user ID called Noman here. He is a MM consultant. So where am I creating this user ID? In which system? So where will be MM consultant of ECC system? ECC or your S4 HANA system. So what is your ERP system? It will be so the MM consultant will be available. Now I am creating a user ID called Noman. He is a MM consultant. In the ECC system we are creating. So we will not go and log in into ECC system, create user ID, nothing like that. Every activity will be done from the GRC system itself from now onwards. So we will log in into the GRC system, create user ID. When the user ID is created, here itself we will be performing risk analysis. Okay. After performing this risk analysis, if we identify any risk, we will remove the risk for this user. And after removing this risk, the user credentials will be sent to the user through a email. That too also we are not performing. Till now what we have done in SU01, after you create a user ID, we are copying the details or downloading the details and sending to the user or sending through the mail. Here onwards, no need of performing that activity also. So due to our workflow configuration, automatically the SAP system will be sending the user credentials to that particular user ID. Whatever email ID we are providing, to that email ID, the credentials will be sent. How it is sent? After performing risk analysis also, and we are going to make sure that the user is not going to have any risk involved, okay, even before creating. So risk analysis will be mostly performed while creation of users roles and profiles, and it can be also performed for already existing users and roles also, okay, no errors. And one more point you have to note here is these rule sets tables, these are of two different types. One is the global rule set which SAP is going to provide for you. Okay, so some default rule set SAP is going to provide you. What are the default risk IDs SAP is thinking? It is going to provide you the data. If you want to use it as it is, you can use. If you want to customize the default rule set, you can customize it as you wish. Or else you can completely create a new rule set as per your requirement. So in any of the way, this rule set can be used as per your requirement. Okay, this is all introduction about the ARA concept. Okay, any doubts? Any one of you? Nothing, right? So the next topic we are going to start in the tomorrow's session is the EAM. So that is Emergency Access Management. So tomorrow we are going to see an overview of EAM as we have seen an overview of ARA. Okay, right. Clear? Right then. We'll be meeting tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Have a nice day.